In many ways, The Dark Knight is a groundbreaking film. For one, Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy popularized an entire genre of comic book movies as dark, large-scale, epic character studies with elements of realism. The cinematography in the film by Wally Pfister is equally groundbreaking. Through its innovative use of technical gear and grounded, naturalistic visual style, The Dark Knight became both a box office smash and a cult classic simultaneously. In this first edition of Cinematography Breakdown, I'll be providing in-depth analysis on how the cinematography of The Dark Knight informs the overall story. I'll look at specific shots and scenes from the movie, as well as behind-the-scenes images, and break down exactly how they were achieved from a technical standpoint, looking at cameras, lighting, and grips. I think what really set Nolan's series of Batman films apart from previous notions of what a comic book film is due in part to the tone he creates. Rather than a more literal and stylized interpretation of a comic book movie, like having the Joker getting his appearance from falling into a vat of chemicals, Nolan sets The Dark Knight in a more realistic world that's more identifiable with a tone of filmic realism. The film is of course not trying to represent the real world, but it is trying to represent its own realistic world, a world based on cinematic principles that are derived from real-life experiences and characters. To achieve this look, Nolan enlisted Wally Pfister, his regular director of photography. His style of photography is very naturalistic and very subtle. He's very good at making things feel real, with an unforced and natural beauty, and that's what we were really after on this film. So Pfister was briefed to create visuals which were naturalistic and subtle, but which were also captivating and epic. To achieve this look, they shot the film in two different formats, Imax and 35mm anamorphic. Nolan remarked, "I've always been fascinated by large format photography's immersive quality, the impact it has on the huge screen, and I've never seen a fiction film or a Hollywood movie that employed that degree of immersion on the visual side. So, in a landmark decision, they decided to shoot a large portion of the film in the more costly IMAX format for specific scenes that required enhanced moments of immersion, becoming the first feature-length narrative film to use IMAX on this scale. It could be argued that this helped reignite a renaissance in shooting large format, with future films increasingly utilizing IMAX, Ultra Panavision 70, and now the ARRI Mini LF. So what is IMAX? To understand IMAX, first we need to understand a traditional 35mm camera. With a 35mm film camera, there's a specific area behind the lens that allows light to hit the film. When light hits the film, it exposes and captures a negative image, which can be seen once it's developed. The area where this exposure happens is called the film plane. We can think of this as being the same as a digital sensor on modern cameras. Whatever light hits the digital sensor or film plane is recorded. On a 35mm film camera, the film travels and passes the film plane vertically. On an IMAX camera, however, the film passes the film plane horizontally. The size of a film negative is measured in perfs, or perforations. 35mm film can be shot in 2, 3, or 4 perf. IMAX film is shot at an astounding 15 perfs. 35mm film is so called because the total width of the film measures 35mm across. IMAX uses 70mm film, which measures 70mm across. This means that the image that is recorded in IMAX is 9 times larger than that of 35mm, which results in unparalleled resolution, even by today's digital standards. Let's break down the IMAX camera setup used on The Dark Knight. Here's a photo of the camera on set. It's taken from the right-hand side of the camera, which we call the dumb side. It's jokingly called this because all the technical information like the lens markings are found on the left-hand side of the camera, so this side has less info, hence the dumb side. I'll start at the front of the camera. To protect excess light from flaring the lens and to hold filters in place, we have a studio matte box. This looks like it could be an Arri MB18. There are two kinds of matte boxes: clip-on matte boxes, which clamp onto the front of the lens. They are lightweight and often used for handheld or Steadicam setups, where a lighter camera build is required. The other type of matte box, like we see here, is a production or studio matte box. This is mounted on rods or bars rather than being clipped onto the front of the lens, and is often used for larger lenses like zooms, or when the camera is in studio mode, such as on a tripod or dolly, where having a larger built camera doesn't matter as much. Above the matte box is a Cinetape. This is a large, older version. A Cinetape sends out the sonar frequency like a bat in a cave. It receives the sonar signal back and gets an accurate distance measurement to whatever it's pointing at.
Sonar, just like a
submarine, Mr. Wayne, like a submarine.
The focus puller, or first AC, will get this distance measurement readout and use it to pull focus to the correct distance. For example, if an actor is standing 6 feet away from the camera, the Cinetape will measure this, and the focus puller will pull the focus to 6 foot on the lens so that the actor is in focus. Through the matte box rods is the lens. It's a Hasselblad lens, originally made for large or medium format photography, which is being converted for cinema use. It's used for Imax cinematography because the lens elements are large enough to cover the full Imax negative without vignetting the image. Next to the lens is a focus motor. This is a Preston wireless follow focus. The focus puller will attach his motor to the gears on the lens. Then using their handset, they can move the motor, which changes the focus, seeing what distance the lens is on as the motor moves. On top of the camera, we have a 5-inch monitor which displays a video feed of what the camera is seeing. The operator can use this to operate the camera or to line up a shot. With film cameras though, the operator traditionally looks through the viewfinder or eyepiece, as it provides a clearer image and connects the operator to the camera more. This is the body of the film camera. The film plane would be inside the body, and at the back is a mag or magazine. This is where the 70mm film is stored in a totally light-free mag, so that the film isn't exposed to any excess light, which would ruin the negative. The other camera that they used on this film to capture the majority of the 35mm anamorphic footage is the Panaflex Millennium XL, operated by the masked cinematographer here, who is having a look at the frame through the eyepiece. This is a camera from Panavision, who rent their equipment for films and commercials. Here you can see their magazine above the camera instead of at the back. Usually the mags on cameras are at the back, like on the Imax camera and Arri cameras. But with certain Panavision cameras, they are found on top. This is a 1,000-foot mag, meaning that it carries 1,000 feet of 35mm film inside it, which equates to about 11 minutes of footage. There are two standard mag sizes for 35mm, 400-foot mags and 1,000-foot mags, so this is the larger option. This means you can run more takes before the mag finishes and you have to reload or change magazines. They shot The Dark Knight on two Kodak Vision 2 film stocks, 500 tungsten, which goes by the name 5218, and 250 daylight, or 5205. Pfister likes to simplify things by only shooting two film stocks. I'm not a guy who changes film stocks to create a different look. I like to have a simple set of tools and change the look with lighting and exposure. 5205 has a very solid grain structure, and I usually use it all day long with ND filters during the brightest parts of the day. For interior or night scenes, he will then change to 500 tungsten for its increased sensitivity to light. On the front is a matte box that we discussed before, and there's a little box that says 4 foot 11 inches, which is coming from the Cinetape, meaning that the Cinetape is reading a distance of 4 foot 11 from the camera to whatever's in front of the lens. They shot The Dark Knight on Panavision anamorphic lenses, the older C series and the more modern E series. This appears to be a 50mm E series lens on the camera. And next to the lens is a traditional follow focus setup. It looks like an Arri FF3. In the setup, the focus puller will stand on the left side of the camera next to the operator and pull focus by turning the knob. At the top, we can see that there's a monitor mounted. This is positioned for the focus puller as a reference, so when they are pulling focus, they'll be looking at 4 things. First, the position of what they are pulling focus to, for example, an actor moving towards the camera. Then they will look at the Cinetape readout, which shows this distance. They will look at the distance markings on the lens, and they will look at the monitor as a reference to check that they are in focus. Let's take a look at the famous opening scene in the movie. This scene was mainly shot on Imax to give an immersive quality to this action sequence. A lot of the camera movement here is smooth and cinematic. Moving the camera a lot provides a dynamism and a tension to the sequence. This slow dolly tracking on the Joker and his mask sets him up as an ominous character. Like how in Jaws we don't immediately see the shark, we just see the fin. Here we don't immediately see the Joker, we just see his mask. Choosing what information we decide to reveal to the audience through shot choice is key in directing and cinematography. In this opening sequence, we also establish the lighting style which is employed throughout the film. The film relies on naturalistic lighting, motivated by the locations and practicals. Here we see beams of light coming through the windows, leading down the hall. This light provides a beautiful, natural-looking depth to the shot. It gives us an idea that the bank's layout is large. Although this light may seem like natural light, it's not. In this location, the lighting crew rigged a dozen 7K xenon lamps outside the windows using condors. This is a strong light source which creates distinctive light beams with hard shadows. It also means that there aren't lights inside the building on set. This gives the actors and camera crew more room to move around during takes. This scene is supplemented by touches from real, practical light sources, something that Pfister employs throughout the film. This sequence employs constant camera movement, mostly on Steadicam. The movement of the camera is motivated by the movement of the characters on screen. This provides us with an on-the-ground perspective. It makes us feel like we are there and part of the action. Again, the shaft of light approach is employed here. To me, this makes the space seem large and empty, which creates an air of vulnerability when the shooting starts, like all the characters are out in the open. We can also see here that even with wider lenses, the depth of field is incredibly narrow. This is an effect of shooting with a larger IMAX negative. The larger the film plane, the less depth of field there is. This means that characters can be isolated, even in wider shots, so that the filmmakers can clearly guide the audience's eye to whatever they want to see. The sequence ends with a classic jib up on a crane or techno crane to reveal the master plan as the bus drives off. This visual approach to revealing the plan of the Joker mimics how the audience will be exposed to his plans throughout the movie. An iconic location from The Dark Knight is Bruce Wayne's secret underground bunker, where scenes with him and Alfred take place. The approach to lighting here was motivated by an almost counterintuitive approach. Nolan describes this idea. Early on, I suggested to Wally that because the film is called The Dark Knight, and it's about, metaphorically, extremely dark subjects, it would be interesting to play against that for much of the film, and make things as bright as possible, even as the material gets darker. I think The Dark Knight is a film about binary connections. It's about the relationship between good and evil, about chaos versus order, Batman versus the Joker, about dark and light. Lighting in extreme ways by having some scenes with lots of light and some scenes in pervading darkness emphasizes this idea of duality. In this scene, they achieved this bright underground look by lighting from the ceiling. The lighting team placed 300 space lights, with 6 800-watt bulbs surrounded by a silk diffusion and skirting above the ceiling. Then, with the production design, chose a perspex material, which would let the light through while remaining opaque enough so that the lights above are invisible in the scene. In sections, the lighting crew hung 20 by 20 white sheets to contain and smooth out the light. The lights were all rigged on dimmers. When the characters leave, they are able to turn off the overhead film lights, so that Bruce Wayne and Alfred are seen leaving the light behind for darkness. In order to preserve a sense of naturalism, Nolan prefers shooting in real locations as opposed to in a studio. As such, this scene was shot in a real hotel. Like in the underground bunker, most of the light comes from above. Pfister's team put up 4 8K space lights again to create a soft ambience. The room was littered with small practical sources to break up the background. The backgrounds of the city that we see in this scene were actually done with a green screen plate. They lined the windows on set with green screen material and backlit it with 40 2K tungsten lights. Green screens have to be lit evenly to be better keyed out, which is why they use so many sources to provide an even light over a large surface area. We can see this scene was shot with anamorphic lenses due to the oval bokeh, as opposed to the regular round bokeh you get from spherical lenses. The Joker is an unpredictable character. To increase this idea visually, a lot of the shots of him here are handheld. This makes the camera shake more and appear less controlled, smooth, and disciplined, mimicking his chaotic persona. Pfister likes to use eye lights for characters. This is where you use a small source underneath an actor to create a ping of light in the eyes. In this scene, for instance, he used an LED light panel in a softbox, which was handheld by his gaffer to move alongside the camera and provide a sparkle in the eyes of the Joker. So to sum up the visual style of The Dark Knight, Wally Pfister and Christopher Nolan were able to create a naturalistic, subtle, filmic realism. Pfister's lighting in the film is always motivated, and he makes regular use of practical lights and lighting built into sets. To create a sense of immersion and provide scale, he used large format Imax for action sequences from a consciously moving camera, whose perspective and movement was always motivated by the story on screen. This style resulted in a film not overly stylized that has so far stood the test of time. A film where the actors and story take center stage, creating a commentary on the duality of life, a battle between the light and the dark. Thanks very much for watching this breakdown of The Dark Knight. If you enjoyed this format of breaking down classic films and the gear used to shoot them, please give the video a like and subscribe. If you have suggestions for other films you'd like me to break down, please let me know in the comments. Until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.